Willpower isn't your problem. You keep trying to discipline your way to consistency, but that's not how it works. Hi, everyone. My name is Paris Stu. They call me P2. I'm a nutrition and fitness coach, and I work with weight class athletes and performance nutrition. I've been working as a coach for over a decade, and I've been in sports, specifically rugby, bodybuilding, and Muay Thai for over the past 25 years. And I've also applied a lot of what I'm going to be talking about in this video, not only in sports, but also running my own business, being a student, working in corporate. And yeah, I'm really very intrigued by this conversation personally. Let's dive in, shall we? You decide that you're going to be more consistent with nutrition. You meal prep, you track everything you're on. Let's go. It works for a bit until it doesn't. Training gets hard. Work piles up. You have obligations. Shit happens. And suddenly, when it comes to nutrition, which is what we're talking about, you might end up being more reactive. You might start grabbing things that are in close proximity. You drop by somewhere and you just have to do whatever because you're starving and you're exhausted. And you're thinking, hey, this can't be it. That's not okay. I have to try harder. I got to do better. I got to work harder. I need more discipline. Is the discipline what's breaking down? So pause that thought. Let's come back. Willpower. What is it? Willpower is a finite resource. It doesn't go on forever. It eventually fatigues throughout the day. There's only so much capacity and tolerance that it has. And it's not indicative of you being undisciplined or weak. It's just, again, like from a previous video when I was talking about the stress bucket and mental fatigue and choices and balancing, there's a lot going on in our lives, especially as athletes. And so every decision you make, every temptation you resist, every impulse you override, all of it, it starts to drain this tank. Now, perhaps you've had a full day, you've had hardcore training, you get home. By then, you've made a lot of decisions. So something so simple as what are you going to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? And then it goes back and forth. And now you've made all of these decisions. Your willpower is done. You're like, great, I'm just going to swing by drive-through somewhere, order pizza, whatever. If you're new here, I always talk about how there is no good or bad food. It's context dependent. And I'm not saying that ordering a pizza is a bad thing. Of course not. But then it's just, again, where I'm coming from in this video is the behavior around it. It's reactive because it's just the easiest thing. You don't have to think about it. I'm done. Just order the pizza. And the thing is, when it comes to food psychology, it's shown that food and things that we have in our proximity and are convenient. So if it's visible and it's convenient, we're going to grab it, as opposed to something that, is not right in front of us. And it's not necessarily because of a lack of discipline, but proximity and ease are more powerful than willpower. So naturally, the closer something is, the less friction. The more friction, the more willpower is required. And then you're running out of willpower. What do? We build systems. I'm not about that self-pity here or victimizing, being like, I fell into it, the pizza fell in my mouth. It's like, no, we take self-responsibility as humans and as athletes. No, we are capable of discipline. We're capable of doing hard things. But why make it harder? Let's use something as an example that's not nutrition related for a moment, just to prove a point home. Excel sheets. You could sit there and type something in every single column and row for hours, days, months, years. Or you put a formula. That was just efficient. That systemizes whatever you're building. And that's where AI comes in and you are more efficient with your administration and you appoint your time to something else. Same when it comes to building systems around your nutrition and your fitness. How? There's 4 suggestions and then an example. Number 1, map your food landscape. So instead of finding yourself in that position that's quite reactive at the end of the day when you're like, what do you want to eat? I don't know. You have a list of go-to places. That includes meal prep companies that you've looked up in your area. That includes your favorite grocery stores and knowing where you can immediately get some grab and go. That includes coffee shops or fast food options where you can get something that matches your goals. Hey, this place has cooked chicken, rotisserie chicken, and I can grab some rice and some salad. Excellent. This is one of the reasons, if you listen to the previous episode of where I was talking about how meal plans aren't very helpful, This is one of them because I'm not sure who's watching this. Like, I'm currently in Ottawa, Canada, but this logic applies wherever you are. I don't know every type of like food resource that you have and where you're from. So you have to kind of scan your environmental landscape. That's number one. Number two, balance your prep approach. Naturally, whatever you're able to make on your own is probably going to be a little bit more aligned with your goals. But if you find that meal prepping absolutely everything ends up being really, really overwhelming and you end up finding it harder to sustain, it is perfectly okay for you to merge certain options. So what I mean is, first, batch prep your protein, or you have the one tray where you are grilling a bunch of vegetables, or you made a pot of rice or whatever. Then meal prep companies. There are some here where I'm from where you can sort them out for multiple meals per week. It doesn't have to be full commitment. Like, it's like, hey, I have a hard time with lunch. And then also you have your grab and goes, and then you have some backup options. Then there's a mix of like, hey, what are my nutrition fitness goals? Where can I prep? Where can I shop? What can I pick up easily? The whole point here is that you are, making decisions for future you. You're planning in advance. So number three, it's plan in advance versus just reacting in the moment. Now, sometimes you do want to be spontaneous, of course. And then depending on where you are with the goals that you have, that is completely understandable. I want to go for ice cream. Great. That's a cool little spontaneous response versus completely having to react when you've already been fatigued, when it's the end of the day. So you're planning when you're clear-headed instead of when you're depleted. And that's the whole point. It's a little game plan. So for example, let's say on Sunday, you take some time instead of doing the full meal prep of everything. Maybe you're using Sunday to plan, and you sit down and you look at your week. When am I training? When am I working? What am I doing? Whatever. The brain that is not depleted, that is clear headed, that has thought in advance is going to make some better decisions. So let's use that one, right? And set it up for future us. And then we're integrating those three things I've talked about into number four, which is built-in systems. You want to get very specific here, not something like, I'll eat better. A, what does that mean? And B, how do you implement it? So if you're coming to execute and create a system for yourself so you have more discipline and so you can have better training and recovery, what does I'll eat better mean? Yeah, that has healthier food. That's way too surface level. You got to get really specific. It's 1 hour before training. I'm going to have banana with honey. So then when you're in that position, the future has come. You are now an hour before your training session. You're just going to go grab the banana with honey. You gave yourself a specific time frame with a specific thing to eat that fits a specific structure. Basically, there's a trigger, a behavior follows. There's no decision that needs to be made. There's no willpower that needs to be used. We can save our willpower for something else that requires it, perhaps pushing yourself through a hard workout. And what we're trying to do is implement. The whole point here is to look at your life and see where you can create routine, where you can create systems. And I don't mean this in a way that's boring or mundane. What I mean by that is wherever you are on the planet, especially as a lot of athletes that I work with, they, travel for sport. It's not about the sameness, it's about that structure. So whether you are competing in one country or the other or whatever, you have a routine. So if we're doing a weight cut, am I just winging everything, or do I have some data for past that I'm looking through and I'm replicating? And then you're able to tweak instead of having so much of your mental and emotional trying to make these choices in reaction. Cool. Done this, been there, done that, past me, did some stuff, learned some things. We're going to make these choices for future. I had a client that came to me and said, I'm just like either under eating or overeating, and then I just need more discipline. And I'm like, what do you mean? Let's reverse engineer. Let's look at your day. Let's look at your week. I didn't say, you got to try harder. You got to build more discipline, bro. Thanks, tips. That was greatly helpful. Are you aware of your training times? Great. Then what can we get that will simplify prep? Okay, your work has you all over the place. And sometimes you find yourself on one side of the city and then you're and commute trying to make it to training on time. Have you looked around at the various options where you can pick up food? No. Great. So we made a list together of like a handful of places that we've already looked through the menu, that we already knew what would be some choices that align with his goals and where he can pick. Be like, oh, I'm on this side of the city. I'm going to go here. And that's what I'm ordering with these modifications. Amazing. And then back up really simple was to go get some grab and go bars and some sachets of protein powder and this just to leave it in his gym bag. So what ended up happening? It wasn't necessarily the discipline. He's a very disciplined person that is like trying to execute work, muting, training, wanting to eat well, wanting to fuel, but he was just kind of working against himself. So the results of this conversation, very simple things, batch creating, planning actual training and looking at what to eat before training, zooming out and looking at when he's eating and then where to go to pick up for certain things he's not able to prep, specifically when he's across the city from training. And then having some backup options and simple, convenience foods that are relevant here. What ended up happening is he was consistently fueled and then he was able to do better training, didn't feel like he was falling off the wagon and restarting every time. Everything was a lot more consistent. He felt better about it mentally. And then he was able to kick it up a notch. And the main thing is that we removed the need for constant decision making. We simplified. Past him and myself sat down and made some simple strategies, simple structure, things that are literally written down for reference to reduce the amount of decision making for later, which then meant that his discipline was not exhausted and he could apply it to a lot more other things and then not end up being completely depleted at the end of it, which is fantastic. Yeah. And this is what I do, is to help us find more strategies that are sustainable that we can continue to implement rather than just relying on discipline. Because if you are an athlete and you've been doing this for a while and you are like continuing to pursue and go even higher levels, it's not discipline that you're lacking. Are your systems, your environments, and your patterns supporting you? Have you actually assessed everything? That is what we do in the Level Up Method framework. What I really want for all of my athletes is to alleviate some of that extra stuff and to make it more sustainable so that we can bring our energy and our focus into other things that are more important, namely being our sport and other things in life. So if that's something that relates to you, please check out the description box for how to work with me, either one-on-one or in the group cohort. In closing, willpower is a tool. It's not the right tool for long-term consistency. Save it for the hard moments. Build systems for everything else. What's one thing that you have tried to discipline your way through? Drop it in the comments. Thank you so much for your attention, everyone. Catch you next time.